So as you can see, we're indoors. No six gate today. What we'll be doing is something a little different, but also the same. Because Daphne here has a problem. Daphne has more than one problem, but primarily it's that distance between the bumper mount and the body, and the fact that every bumper I have on hand uh, either looks bad or just outright doesn't fit. The lines of the creep body are pretty specific, and I mean, that's obviously not going to work. So what I did is decided to get a little creative. Start by borderline destroying an STRC rear bumper mount for a TRX4 by liberally carving it up with this guy and then mounting it on the front upside down and backwards, which seems to work pretty good. Then all I have on hand in terms of square stock is what I believe is 5/16 mild steel. And 5/16 is almost 7 millimeters, but it is standard and not metric. So we're going to have to resort to this device and make a big mess because I'm too lazy to drive to any sort of store. It's also, there should be a 6 gate going on right now. So it's Sunday. So my choice would be like the Lowe's. And I would rather just resort to the lathe and turn this material down, which will be going into fast motion here shortly. As what you'll notice as that comes to a stop is that is a 3-jaw chuck, and that is square stock. So when you try to grip a 4-sided object in a 3-jaw chuck, it doesn't want to center. So I'm sure a proper machinist has a better way to do this. The way I do it is I turn a little bit down and I flip it around the other way and I turn a little bit down until eventually I can make a square object fit in a round hole. Unfortunately here I'm making a round object to fit in a square hole. But anyhow, sadly the bumper mount pieces from all the bumpers I have are aluminum, and I need steel. You'll see coming up here quite shortly why I require steel. So just finishing the last bit of that off. This was probably one of the most time-consuming parts of the whole thing, just because my laziness sometimes works against me. So as the material had to be turned down a little more than where it was, so we do it again. Luckily, I was taking such a small amount off of the outside diameter of that square stock that I could basically just hog it through on a single pass. That is also not a cutter that is particularly well suited to steel. That is my because I'm an aluminum guy usually. So now we've got 2, and they are pretty close, and the fitment inside the bumper mount is acceptable. I mean, they don't fit super snuggy tight, but in general I don't think that the slidey bumper mount bits do fit super tight. So should probably get this anchored down. There was quite a bit of filing onto the bottom of that. Basically, what this came about because of is I didn't want to cut the frame rails. I mean, there's no guarantee that this thing is going to have a creep body on it forever. I might see another body and go, oh, I absolutely have to have that. So I wanted to leave the OE bumper position available should I decide to go to something that requires a more normal bumper. Then I'm just kind of roughing out a measurement here for a cross piece, and I will just be using more of that 5/16 solid bar because it's what I have, and nothing was lining up because yeah, when you rough cut stuff with a hacksaw, it's not going to be super close. But I just took them, checked them up in the lathe, hit them with a file. I was shooting for about 2 inches, so there's a 49.66, and this one is 49.61. So as far as a faux machinist goes, I can live with that. Like they're effectively close enough. One of my favorite tools of all tools, the automatic punch. I'm not about to be hitting a punch with a hammer. See, it leaves a nice little dot there. And the little dot is because we move up to the part where I have the biggest opportunity to screw up the whole thing, which is the drill press. Drilling small holes in round objects, the drill press can exert a substantial amount of downward force, and the round stock makes the bit want to walk. Like, it just does. So getting it drilled straight, I couldn't get it to drill straight with the camera in the way. So I moved the camera out of the way, and it's mostly in the middle. Like, it's probably in the middle enough. The second hole actually went a little easier. It generally doesn't work that way. Generally, the second one is the one where the bit really walks. And then I'm back on the lathe making another one, which I genuinely hoped I didn't have to do, because if it's just a matter of drilling another hole in some round stock, no problem. If it's turning square stock into round stock because I'm lazy on one hand and willing to put 20 minutes of work into making steel dowels, I counteracted my innate laziness with a desire to create work for myself. You might notice that let me roll that back a little bit. My background is primarily woodworking. That's what I do. I'm a woodworker carpenter. Fabricating stuff just kind of came about organically over time. Working with aluminum is not altogether that much different from working with wood. Steel is something I don't generally mess with very much. So making these parts is kind of new territory for me. See, there's a little bit of wiggle there, but we're going to take out that wiggle pretty quickly. I used 2 of the wrong pins, but hey, it's working. And this is why I needed steel for the bumper mounts, as this is a new thing to me. I've never really, like, I've made one thing. Welding is a whole new deal for me. You can tell by my super safe welding table, which is the same piece of plywood that I've been using to cut out speaker baffles for, like, subwoofer boxes and speaker boxes. I built all the I have 6 speakers in my workshop, which is why all of the audio has been detached. I could not be bothered to turn the audio off. The radio was blaring away, the compressor was blaring away. Uh, Things like angle grinders, the lathe makes a terrible noise, the grinders make horrific noises. Uh, Everything in here is pretty loud, so the radio was the least of my worries. The compressor actually fired up during one of these clips, and I never realized how loud that thing is when picked up by the microphone on the camera. This is my first ever use of a magnet block. I just threw it on there in such a way as to hold that thing in a place where I needed it. So please don't attack my technique. Ooh. As I've said before and will say again, I am not a welder. I still love the look of the sparks. Also, my technique, I don't have one. You might notice there's a plastic tip on the welder. That is because I'm using flux core. I'm using gasless. I didn't think I was in any sort of position to be buying a gas bottle and whatnot for welding, as I've never really welded anything before. I have plenty of tools for working with wood. If you wanted me to build you a bumper out of wood, oh boy, could I do that. So this is effectively uncharted territory for me. And I realize even now, here we are at about the halfway point, and I've managed to attach 3 pieces of metal together. I don't recommend that, like, if you have the stuff to do this, like if you have the machines and the materials required to do this, you're doing it like just as a diversion. There are plenty of places on the internet where you can just go and buy pretty much whatever bumper you want to fit whatever thing you want. But as I had already gone into modifying that bumper mount to move the bumper up, as with most of the builds I do around here, everything gets really conditional really fast. This bumper, I think, will only fit this rig when it's done. So it's very specific. It's very specifically built for a very specific thing. So that's always kind of been my qualifier. The general woodworking qualifier that we go through is, if you can buy it, why make it? We and I group myself in with woodworkers. We make things because they fulfill our needs very specifically. Like, I've constructed most of the fixtures and cabinets and drawers and everything. I've built them all in this workshop. I've built 2 staircases, the enclosure for the compressor, all the storage bins for the crawlers and all my other RC cars, all that stuff, because it's very bespoke stuff. I have a certain amount of space, and I want to put a certain thing in that space, and that's how it goes. A bumper, for 99.9% of people, is a very different thing. Like, the mounting points are the same, so you just get a bumper and throw it on there. I keep rechecking the fit, because from what I've watched in videos about welding, if you put too much heat into a part, you can warp it, and then all of a sudden it won't want to fit anymore. So I think I started a thought and then trailed away from it earlier, which is, in woodworking in general, much as I loathe writing things down, because I loathe writing things down, what you do is you go oversized. Because the joke we've always carried on in woodworking is, oh, did you cut it too small? Just cut some back on. Because that's not a thing. You get one shot. So I leave everything too big. Like, I could already tell that this metal bar was too wide, but I just kept going with it. You know, it's almost 4 inches, which I think is definitely too wide for this rig. Whatever the top portion is going to be, I had not decided at this point. Whatever that top portion was going to be is definitely going to have a little forward lean to it. And this is where we get into, this is definitely going to speed motion, because it's like $14 for a container of MAP gas, and it's $5 for propane. So I will spend a little more time and throw a little more heat, because we're just bending 1/4 inch hot roll, so it's not hard to get a bend. So I guess I'm looking at kind of a wide. I'm generally more of a stinger guy, but like the stock Ecto bumper has that kind of squared off at the top. So I was thinking something along those lines. I hadn't decided how I wanted to attach the round stock to the square stock. Like, was I going to try to tack weld it to the top? Like I say, I don't know how to weld. I mean, I can do it. Apparently, I guess I can do it, but I'm definitely not a welder. Like, if you need me to build you something out of wood, if you need a cabinet, I can build you a cabinet. But this is me making it up as I go along. I mean, I've bent some rods before. It looks like I'm building a roller handle, and I got it I had it too far out of the jaws, so it didn't quite bend the way I wanted. It kind of popped one end up. And at that point, I could feel my mind changing, but I figured might as well cut it off, take a look at it. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it'll look better up against the grill. So we parted off the piece of rod. We take it over, slap it on, see what it looks like, because I mean, I think it needs some sort of context. And I basically looked at it, and I was like, anything wider than the headlights is probably not gonna do it. So it's almost the width of the fenders. So I second guessed myself, and the beauty of it is that 1/4 inch hot roll is like $1 a foot. So that's like 70 cents worth of steel right there. And I didn't even waste that 70 cents. I was like, maybe if it's shorter, because I can always cut it into something else. So I did just head back over to the vise and just resort to a stinger, because I like stingers. And I like a nice wide radius at the top. I approve of the look of this already. I just clamped it into the vise, and I put a piece of 1/2 inch pipe, and I just bent it around it. So then I was like, I guess I'll attach it to the front. Just made some pen marks, hit it with the file, kind of tried to, because I was like, how am I going to get that lean angle of the stinger leaning out from the bumper? So I was just like, I'll go with a forward attachment, because I don't trust my weld skills enough to try to weld it like to the top, how like a stinger would ordinarily be anchored to the top. I was like, if I give myself some more meat to go and attach it to the front, I think I'll have better fortune with it lasting. I don't know if it's because I bought the second cheapest welding mask on Amazon, or if my brain just isn't calibrated to it. But when that thing goes auto dim and the welder goes live, I mean, I can see a little blue dot, but I can't I can't really tell what's going on. So I'm hoping that this is something that I get better at over time. Uh, because I want my welds to look like the welds you see people make on TV. And I'm hoping that it's just a repetition thing, because, if you want me to turn you something on the lathe or build you a cabinet, I can do it with my eyes closed and one hand tied behind my back, because I've probably turned, it's in the tens of thousands of things on the lathe. So this, it's just a welding, like fabricating. Oh, look how good that looks on there. So the welding is the part where, like, I get the part like bent the way I want it, and then the whole time I'm just thinking, now I'm gonna go put heat into this, which is hot enough to melt the metal, and this is the chance that I have to just absolutely screw everything up. So all the time that I've put into it, I can just actively ruin right now. So do I think that this is going to be the best looking bumper in the world? No. Do I think I could buy one that would look better? Sure. But there's this sense of accomplishment that's almost like nothing I've experienced before, because I'm using skills, I'm employing skills that I don't have. Like, I've never used that grinder to cut metal stock like that. Like, I had to buy welding gloves because, I've never welded before. So this was a whole, every time I fire that thing up, that my Yes Welder, it's super fun. It's so fun. I had no idea. I did some of the early, the first tacks I was throwing down, I was not wearing shoes. So anybody who's operated a welder before will tell you that that's a terrible idea. And I learned that very quickly. I think that came out pretty great. I'm definitely happy with that. I don't think it sticks out too far. Once it's got the screw pins in, it fits nice and tight. I need to attach just a little flat piece there right behind the stinger to put the vise in. And full disclosure, not the first thing I've welded. That bumper you see on Daphne the Sport is the second thing that I have welded. Because the first thing I welded happened, I don't know, maybe 36 hours before, where I decided I'm going to make a stinger for Lil Yella. And I did a whole different way where it's got multiple bends in it, and the actual quarter rod itself is drilled and mounts directly to the frame. So, if you look close, the welds are pretty bad. But, other than that, I think it looks pretty good. So there you have it. There's why, the short of the long is why I didn't run a 6-gate today, because I wanted to play with a welder and I wanted to build a bumper. I also did a bunch of coursework after realizing I had done so little last week. I poured a couple bags of concrete, moved a bunch of rock around. I ended the day with very dirty hands and 2 pretty good looking bumpers, and Daphne is now going on the bench. There is something really binding up in her front end, and we're going to sort that out. But that's all for building bumpers. Thanks for watching this one. Thanks for sticking with me, and I hope to see you in the next one.